Hello everyone and welcome to Pyanodons Mods. This is Otaku Showboat and today we are going to be covering intelligent units, aka Circuit 4s, and a few other things. If you've been enjoying the tutorial series thus far, please be sure to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to help make the series appear higher up in YouTube search results. You can do all of the social stuff through the links in the description below the video. You can support Pyanodons Mods development at patreon.com/Pyanodon, and myself, and further tutorial development, production, etc. at patreon.com/Otaku And as a gentle reminder, Pyanodons mods are in a constant state of flux and are subject to change at any point in time. So with all of that out of the way, intelligent units is what I had planned on doing today, exclusively intelligent units. But after looking at what comes next, we're not just going to be doing intelligent units today. We are also going to be doing utility science today. And we are going to be doing quantum computing for space science. We are going to be covering all of the above. And what does this actually mean? This is like the rest of the game in this video. So after having gone through the uranium processing to get 70% uranium, specifically for heavy fermion material, this is it. This is the rest of the game for you of what is required to get up to space science. So let's go ahead and get started with this. Intelligent units. Intelligent units are going to be required for a lot of Mark IV stuff. They're also going to be required for the Tier 3, the high-tech robots. So your Logi bots and your construction bots at high-tech, they are beautiful and blue and amazing, but you're going to need intelligent units for them. Intelligent units are also going to be required for your level 3 modules if you are interested in upgrading to level 3. But as we're going through this, just keep in mind how quickly we progress to space science. So if your intention is just to make some amounts of space science, then you don't really have to worry so much about making Mark IV gear. You don't have to worry so much about even making Mark III equipment, buildings, and such. As I have demonstrated here, this is mostly Mark III buildings and such. So you don't have to worry so much about doing the Mark III, the Mark IV, the high-tech bots, if your intention is just to get to space science. This is only really for if you want to do, if you have some sort of goal for overall output of science. That is when I would recommend, hey, go to Mark III, go to Mark IV, get the better bots. Only really think about doing that if you have specific production goals for your base. Say you set a goal of doing 1 science per second of space science at the end and everything else along the way. Well, then you're probably going to want to go and devote more time and effort into developing Mark III and Mark IV equipment and the high-tech bots, because the build is going to be ginormous and will take a lot of time, even for 1 space science per second, let alone the 5 space science per second, /5 of all science per second that has been recently posted about by Immortal Sniper and his base using older versions of the entire mod suite. Alright, so intelligent units are optical fibers, circuit board 3s, cross-section LEDs, fault current inductors, condo processors, nano chips, paradiagmatic resistors, printed circuit substrate 4s or PCB 4s, supercapacitors, and solder. Well, what do you have of this thus far? You have optical fiber, circuit 3s, and solder. And we're going to go through each of the new things as we progress. Just as another side note, once you make all of this, all of this stuff, or much of the stuff that makes this stuff, are also going to be used in the following utility science and space science. So bear that in mind. And also, if you are building out each of these pieces, a lot of this is also used in Mark III buildings. So if you set up the stuff for Mark III buildings before you set up intelligent units, it will be incredibly simple to set up your intelligent units at that point in time because you will already have the extreme vast majority of what you need, including the supercapacitors. Supercapacitors are also used in the production of Mark II Nexilite accumulators. So these will require cores and shells. The cores are going to use activated carbon, sodium chlorate, graphite, carbon aerogel, silver, and water. You have all of that by now. And the shells are nexilite, molybdenum, fiberboard, aluminium, and water. You, of course, have all of that. So this is just place 3 buildings. This is as simple as place just a few buildings and bring in water. Next, the paradiabatic resistors. These will use nichrome, rare earth oxides, chromium cobalt alloy, cermets, silver nexilite matrix, lead plate, and boric acid. Now we have 2 new things here. We have the chromium cobalt alloy, which is chromium, borax, sand castings, tailings dust, fuel rod Mark 1s, never, of course, use uranium to make fuel rod Mark 1s, and petroleum gas. So you have all of these things already to make the chromium cobalt alloy. The nexilite silver matrix will be super alloy with nexilite matrix, silver plates, boric acid, and vacuum. By this point, you also have all of this. So again, this is just a place the buildings situation and do the logistics. A lot of this is just going to be logistics at this point and placing down individual buildings. There's not that many new chains, and we will go over what the new chains are. Next up are the fault current inductors. These require batteries, superalloy, biopolymer, superconductors, and nanocrystalline cores. Now, these inductors, are likely to be your bottleneck for the production of intelligent units, and the reason for this is it comes down to the biopolymer and the superconductors. Both of these are going to be relatively low output, so you will have to plan ahead by producing a lot more of these than you would otherwise expect, because both of these get used frequently. Biopolymer gets used a ton, and it's going to be just one of those things where you're probably going to be limited by your fault current inductors on your circuit force. So, what's new here? Of course, the biopolymer, the superconductors, and the nanocrystalline cores. The nanocrystalline cores are pretty simple. These are iron, copper, niobium, boron, silicon, gold. You should have all of those things already, so these are fine. They're made in the nano assemblers. That's good. The superconductors, not to be confused with the supercapacitors. The superconductors will require silver zinc alloy, rare earth magnets, superconductor substrate, gold, and liquid nitrogen. Now, the new things here, of course, are the silver zinc alloy and the substrate. The silver zinc alloy is just silver, zinc, and refined syngas, so that's fine. The substrate, the superconductor substrate, is going to need niobium titanium alloy, superconducting magnetic units, which we've seen from Circuit 3s, rare earth magnets, again from Circuit 3s, nylon parts, Circuit 2s, and MSA, again from Circuit 3s. So you do have all of this at this point, most likely, or are able to scale it up at this point. Biopolymer. Now, I need to make very clear my thoughts on the biopolymer. Biopolymer is used a lot in these final 3 steps. Uh, it's used a lot in Mark III equipment in particular. So you're going to need a ton of this stuff. You're going to need a ton of it. And what is the thing that's limiting you on this? It's not actually the collagen. You need silver foam, urea, collagen, canalgas bacteria, or canal gas bacteria, and a diesel. Diesel, I would always suggest at this point to use a light oil refinery, actually. Do I have a light oil refinery that I would want to place here? Here, let me grab a light oil refinery. So, diesel, I always will suggest the recipe here. Chromium, aromatics, hydrogen, just because aromatics are, like, this is all free. Like, this you can get from water, all of it. You can get chromium from sand, as well as, like, if you really need a small amount of chromium in a specific location, you could always do that. There are other better ways of getting chromium than that. You can do aromatics from Rhodesian mushrooms, and you of course get hydrogen from water. So diesel is fine. Diesel is fine. Use the light oil refineries. Please, God, use light oil refineries to make Pyanodon happy. Please do that. Make Pyanodon happy by doing that. It's one of the buildings that doesn't get used a lot. Same with the Mark II Nextlit accumulators. They don't get used a lot, so please use them. The Canalgas bacteria, this is ground sample 1's bone meal and oleochemicals. So you are spending nichrome for the oleochemicals. And the ground sample 1's you've made way back when you did green science. When you did green science, you got your ground samples set up. And then bone meal is Ulrich corals. The issue is going to be the silver foam. Now, I haven't really mentioned this yet, but in order to actually make circuit 4s, you will need to have a very specific tech, and that is the fusion energy 3. So you need to get 1, 2, and 3 to unlock the silver foam recipe so that you can make biopolymer, so that you can make everything that needs biopolymer. So do bear that in mind. You will need to pick up fusion energy 3 tech. That is a purple science tech before you can do this. Silver foam is used very heavily in the biopolymer, and you need a lot of biopolymer, therefore you need a lot of silver foam. Silver foam is very heavy on limestone. It uses silver zinc alloy, but it also uses the 3 worst. Like, these are what I would consider the top 3 most expensive fluids in Pyanodons mods. The top 3 most expensive. And they're all used for silver foam. So, acetylene, it's a lot of space/power, primarily. It's just a lot. Big, space-wise. Don't worry so much about the acetylene. This is the easiest of the 3. Hydrogen chloride, you're stuck using iron, copper, and glass in the form of the lamps to make the hydrogen chloride, and chlorine is not that simple to get either, because the easiest way to get the chlorine is just through tholins rather than to make it out of salt. If you wanted to make it out of salt, well, there is an even bigger setup for you to do to make your requisite amounts of chlorine out of salt/saline water. Hydrogen peroxide is going to be a big, massive consumer of nickel and chromium. So it's going to use nickel directly to make the hydrogen peroxide, and then it's going to also use chromium for the anthraquinone that goes into the hydrogen peroxide. So this effectively eats nickel and chromium. What is nickel and chromium? Nichrome, that you otherwise would have been able to make out of those two parts. So this uses two really, like, it pulls away from your nichrome production, which is awful, and it's just a huge pull on nickel. So your silver foam, not only is it pulling on silver and some zinc for the silver zinc alloy, it's also pulling big demand off of your nickel production and your chromium production and your iron and your copper and your glass and your power / coke. So yeah, it's expensive is what I'm trying to say. Silver foam is highly expensive in all of those things, and you're going to need a lot of it if you want to make things at a reasonable rate. So just bear all of that in mind as we go forward. I spent a lot of time saying this because it's very important. This will be the single bottleneck of everything going forward. I mentioned that the inductor will limit your production of the circuits, of the intelligent units. Biopolymer will very likely be the limiting factor of these inductors, because you're going to see just how many steps are going to need biopolymer going forward, besides this one. Also, a number of steps will use the superconductor, so bear that in mind as well. You're going to be spending a lot to produce the MSA in particular. That's going to use a lot, and the superconducting magnetic units are also going to be using a lot of resources behind them. And then just pay attention to how much nylon gets used here as well. So lots of very expensive stuff here at this step. Next, cross-section LEDs. Vanadium, phosphate glass, biopolymer, zinc oxide nanoparticles, carbon nanotubes, salt, and boric acid. So two new things here. Again, note the biopolymer, zinc oxide nanoparticles, and carbon nanotubes. Carbon nanotubes is what I'll start with, because more biopolymer, as well as vanadium, Nenbit matrix, fine carbon dust, and methane. You may or may not have fine carbon dust at this point. I would highly suggest at this point that you have fine carbon dust to make boron out of particle acceleration. You are able to ball mill your carbon, aka your coke in this case. In this case, it's your coke into fine carbon dust. The zinc oxide nanoparticles will use lead containers, which you have made already for purple science, and zinc nanocomplex. This is new and the result of a bit of a chain of stuff. The nanocomplex is going to come from methanol and nanocompound. The nanocompound will come from sulfur zinc acetate, so this is going to be a big consumer of zinc, sodium hydroxide, and Relesia extract. Relesia extract. Now this is going to be the result of Relesia into dried Relesia in an evaporator that then gets powdered in a secondary crusher, not a ball mill, and then hydrocycloned with steam into the Relesia extract. So this is a mini linear chain to lead into this. So keep that in mind. We got two more things here consuming this biopolymer, and this stuff will be used frequently as well. So this one is a big zinc demand. So this will be one of the things that is the primary demander of zinc going forward. You're going to need to absolutely scale your zinc. So what are the things that you will need to scale thus far? Zinc, nickel, chrome, iron, copper, glass. Make sure that you scale all of that. Next, Condo processors, biopolymer, zinc oxide nanoparticles. Gee, we haven't seen these before yet, have we? Yeah, so again, both of these. Now, aerogel, which you should have from special small parts, condo cores and condo substrate, and vacuum. Condo cores and condo substrate. We will start with the cores. The condo cores are optical fiber, molybdenum disulfide, industrial diamonds, superconducting wires, graphene rolls, colloidal silica, and vacuum. You have everything except for the colloidal silica, and the reason why I say that, even though we haven't really seen molybdenum disulfide yet used as an ingredient, is that it is the step before molybdenum trioxide in the molybdenum processing chain. So molybdenum trioxide goes into molybdenum plates. It's used directly as well in the production of superalloy. Trying to remember which one that is. Yes, which one was it again? Superalloy for the molybdenum trioxide, or Mu3. MOS2, molybdenum disulfide, is used only here. It is used exclusively here, so leach some off of your production of the Mu3 for your superalloy. Colloidal silica is the result of a small, very small chain. You will first make sodium silicate from sand, pure sand, sodium hydroxide, and refined syngas. You will then ball mill it into a silica powder, then add plastic, sulfur, lead plate, and vacuum to the silica powder to make colloidal silica. This will be used later as well. The condo substrate is going to require an n-bit matrix, which you have, subdenier microfiber, nylon parts, heavy fermion material, industrial solvent, and helium. Heavy fermion material we covered last time with the uranium processing tutorial. So the 70% uranium processing, that's copper, sand castings, fuel rods, rare earth oxides, gold plates, and 70% uranium powder to make heavy fermion material. So that is covered. The other new thing here is the subdenier microfiber. Everything else you should have by now. Subdenier microfiber is microfiber. Who'd have thunk it? Aerogel, ammonia, and acrolein. Now, the microfiber is just fiber and sodium hydroxide. So, if you're doing rayon, this should be familiar to you, because these are two things that are used as part of producing rayon. So, you can copy and paste stuff from your rayon processing setup to make microfiber. The acrolein will use propene and chromium. I'd suggest just doing tholin-based propene. Propene has a few methods. It's lead and syngas and steam. Primarily, I would just suggest tholins here. This is like a joke recipe to convert coal into propene. This is a joke. Ignore this one. It's not useful in the slightest. Same with residual gas and nichrome. No, never spend nichrome like that. So you do have the option gasifier for lead, syngas, and steam to make propene, or just tholin it for your acrolein. And that is going to be your subdenier microfiber. I will note as well, once you do have subdenier microfiber, you also have access to a much better aramid recipe. You have access to the second and better aramid recipe. This will give you... So, the basic aramid recipe that you should have been doing to this point gives you 8 every 4 seconds. This recipe with the subdenier microfiber is 20 every 4 seconds. So it's over twice the output, more than 2x the output, and it actually costs less sodium hydroxide overall, and you're not spending titanium anymore, and you're not spending sulfuric acid anymore. It's still the same amount of TPA, but the TPA is being used to make more aramid than what it was before, so this is just a better recipe overall. There is also a biofilm recipe. Biofilm. Will you... Just keep in mind the biofilm. We'll talk about Resilin, like, coming up soon. Just note that biofilm is going to be subdenial microfiber, nitrogen, and resilient, and this is a better biofilm recipe than spending rayon on it directly. Yeah, it is a significantly better biofilm recipe once you also get the resilient. Next, so that is that for the condo processors. Next is nanochips. Nanochips. You have all of this already. Optical fiber, graphene rolls, heavy p-doped silicon, remember that from the Circuit 3s, light n-doped silicon, carbon nanotubes, more biofilm in the form of carbon nanotubes, and helium. And then lastly, PCB4, which is ceramic, zinc oxide nanoparticles, aka a lot more zinc, nylon parts, mounted circuit substrate, which is from Circuit 3s, heavy fermion material, so there's your uranium draw, lead plate, etching solution, and MSA. And once you have all of that set up, you have intelligent units. Congratulations, you now have intelligent units. Once you have intelligent units, you can immediately move to utility science. Utility science. Utility science will require Kevlar, volumetric energy capacitors, hyperelastic material, intelligent units, nanowires, nanoelectrical-mechanical systems, or NEMS, optical parametric oscillators, and supersteel. At this point, you have supersteel, you have intelligent units, and you have Kevlar. We will need to make the volumetric energy capacitors, the hyperelastic material, the nanowires, the NEMS, and the optical parametric oscillators. Starting off with the volumetric energy capacitors, because these are going to be used for a few other things along the way. Plastic, vanadium, graphene, rolls, lithium chloride, aerogel, glass, and vacuum. The new thing here is lithium chloride. This is as simple as chromite sand, rare earth oxides, and hydrogen chloride. So again, pull on iron, copper, glass, and power in the form of chlorine for the hydrogen chloride, and a not insignificant amount of both of the rare earth oxides and the chromite sands. Fortunately, this is not used frequently in high volume, so bear that in mind. Not particularly high volume, but it depends on how much of the volumetric energy capacitors you want. Next, and note that it's used more than just here. Nanowires. Nanowires are superconducting wire from Circuit 3s, remember way back then. Silicon, carbon nanotubes, aka biopolymer, as well as gold plates. So again with the biopolymer in the form of nanowires here. And therefore anything using nanowires uses biopolymer, so bear that in mind. Optical parametric oscillators. These use steel, optical sets, control units, lithium niobate, printed circuit substrate 4, paramagnetic material, and YAG laser modules. So the new things here, the brand new things, are the YAGs, the paramagnetic materials, and the lithium niobate. You have control units from purple science, you have optical sets from green science, you have PCB4 from intelligent units, and you should absolutely have steel by now. So, starting off with the paramagnetic material. Paramagnetic material is chromium, iron oxide, myoglobin, nylon, and aluminium plates. The new thing here is myoglobin. Myoglobin is powdered phosphate rock, which is the step like right before making phosphorus acid in your phosphate rock processing chain. Urea, which is free. Meat, which is also technically free, but it's zippier processing, and cyanic acid, which is, urea as well. So this is simple. You can do this just fine and make your paramagnetic material. Note, some of these things are made in particle accelerators. This is now the second item we've seen that requires the particle accelerator to make. So that's going to be a lot of power to make these. Lots and lots of power to make these. YAG laser modules. More rare earth oxides, more rare earth magnets, laser modules, and aluminium plates. We have not seen laser modules yet, and this is where I will briefly discuss that there are two ways of making laser modules. The initial way, the way that has been part of the game, part of the mod set for a while, is to disassemble laser turrets into iron, steel, optical sets, which you need for the laser turrets as well, batteries, circuit board ones, and laser modules. You disassemble these 3 at a time to get the component parts, which is interesting because you don't need iron and steel in the recipe to make laser turrets, and you don't get... you lose out on 20 circuit ones here, and like a few batteries as well overall compared to the cost of the laser turret. And you, of course, get laser modules. Now, at some point, after I had mentioned this fact, it's like, well, it doesn't make sense that you have to make a laser turret and then disassemble it to get laser modules out of it. Why can't I just make a laser module? Why can't I just make a laser module instead of having to make the turret? Because you sort of have to make a module to make a turret, right? It has to be in there, so I have to be making a module to make the turret, right? So we got this recipe to make laser modules. The problem with this recipe is that it uses circuit 2s. It is plastic, batteries, optical sets, and circuit 2s to make the laser modules. This is as opposed to just circuit 1s, which laser turrets are just circuit 1s. Why is it circuit 2s to make laser modules when lasers are circuit 1 only and need to be circuit 1 only because they are needed to make circuit 2s in the form of the molybdenum mining? You need to mine molybdenum to get to circuit 2s, and you need laser turrets to make the molybdenum mines. Why this is circuit 2s, I do not know, but it makes it significantly more expensive than breaking down the turrets. This is more logistically intensive than this, though, so if you would like to spend more and not have to deal with the logistics of this other cheaper recipe, then go right ahead. But I choose not to do this because I do not want another thing spending circuit 2s. Lastly, the lithium niobate for these oscillators. Niobium, boron, lithium chloride, and helium. We have now officially seen all of these already, so that just logistics. Just logistics for that. You do not use lithium niobate outside of this very much, so just keep in mind you're not using a ton of this stuff overall. NEMS, Nano Electrical Mechanical Systems. These, Nexlet, industrial diamonds, graphene rolls, silicon wafers, resin, carbon aerogel, carbon nanotubes, aka biofilm, or biopolymer, not film, biopolymer, nanowires, aka biopolymer again, glass, and etching solution. So we have 2 things here consuming biopolymer going into our NEMS, and you use a lot of nanowires, by the way. This is a lot of nanowires. It's a lot of nanowires per production of these, but you get 5 NEMS per craft. Resin is new. Brand new here. We haven't talked about the resin yet. And remember the biofilm better recipe required resin as well as the subdenier microfiber. Got there eventually. Resilin, melamine, zinc nano compound, this step, not this one, this step, meat, aerogel, and alien bacteria Mark 1. You already have alien bacteria if you have set up proper helium by now. You need alien bacteria Mark 1 for helium, so you already have that. So we aren't going to talk about it. Lastly, hyper-elastic material. Bone meal, more biopolymer. Zinc oxide nanoparticles, so a lot more zinc. Collagen, and resilin to make your hyper-elastic material. And guess what? That's it. That's it. You're done. You now officially have utility science. Congratulations. Set up all of this stuff here. All of this stuff here. And you now have utility science. Well, guess what? From here, all you need is this many buildings. This set of buildings here, and you have space science through quantum computing. I will note that you do need to pick up the quantum computing tech first. It is immediately available to you once you get utility science. Once you have utility science, you have the ability to immediately start researching the quantum computing tech. Right here, this one. It is going to consume 200 units of utility science, so do bear that in mind. It will cost 200 utility science. 300 of the automation, the red science packs, 200 of the green, 100 of the blue, and 100 of the green. Purple, production science. This is totally purple. This is totally purple, right? It's purple production. This will unlock all of the things you need to do the space science recipes in quantum computers. Note that quantum computers use refined concrete, so you must make refined concrete. You also need to make superconductor servo mechanisms, which we haven't actually discussed, and I haven't actually placed the building to make the superconductor servo mechanisms yet. This is an important thing to note. Besides the refined concrete here, which is just steel, sticks, concrete, and water, this is an important thing to note because you need superconductor servo mechanisms not just for the quantum computer building itself. You need these for Tier 3 robots. So you will be making the superconductor servo mechanisms for the T3 robots. This is going to be superconducting coils, which you have from Circuit 3s, subdenier microfiber, nylon, volumetric energy capacitors, superconductors, and NEMS, nano-electrical mechanical systems. So you have everything that you need for this. Is just place the building down and actually build it out. Did I remember to... Nope, I didn't. It's a note to self, but this is a note to self. I need to add this later. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So there are actually two recipes that the building for the quantum computer has. The quantum computer has two recipes. They're nearly identical, but not quite the same. There is a recipe that gives you 3 of each of all of the science packs except for utility and for space. This is not ideal because a lot of the techs use different amounts of red, green, blue, mill, and purple science. They use differing amounts, so never depend on this as a primary source of production of those science packs. And this is actually more expensive than making the science packs individually. So don't go with this. It is a bit cheaper on quantum dots. It is a bit cheaper on the quantum dots overall per output, but I would say ignore that recipe. Don't rely on it. So, space science itself requires nitrogen vacancy centers, pi Josephson junctions, quantum dots, quantum vortex storage systems, Varphy Josephson junctions, liquid helium, and vacuum. Well, vacuum's the simple part. The liquid helium is also rather simple because you already have helium. Just add gas and water to get liquid helium. Very, very simple. So starting off here, the pi Josephson junction. Phosphate glass. Superconductors. Carbon nanotubes, aka biofilm. Heavy fermion material, aka uranium. Nanowires, aka biofilm. And diamagnetic material. Okay. Diamagnetic material is new. Thus far, that we have seen thus far. You may already have it if you are making Mark III buildings and Mark IV buildings at this point. Copper plates. Niobium plates. Rare earth magnets. Rayon. Pyrolytic carbon. And lead plates. What is pyrolytic carbon? It is made in a foundry from coke, graphene rolls, carbon nanotubes, aka biofilm, and vacuum. Look at all the things that are using carbon nanotubes. Just all the things using carbon nanotubes. So yeah, that'll be your pyrolytic carbon for your diamagnetic material for your pi Josephson junctions. You now have those. Next, Varphy Josephson junctions. Niobium, graphene, chromium cobalt alloy, nano crystalline cores, nextlet silver matrix, paramagnetic material. There is nothing new here. You have all of this already. All right. Well, what about the quantum vortex storage systems? Biopolymer, yet again. Volumetric energy capacitors, aka zinc. Lots of zinc. And Bose-Einstein superfluid. All right, well, what is this Bose-Einstein superfluid made of? Copper, plastic, superconducting magnetic units, heavy fermion material, aka uranium, and liquid helium. All right, well, we sort of have all of that at this point, so just place the building and do the logistics. All right, well, what else? What's next? Nitrogen vacancy centers. All right, these are diamonds. Paramagnetic material. Optical parametric oscillators. Diamagnetic material, and harmonic absorbers. Well, we've sort of seen everything except the harmonic absorbers to this point, which, again, you may already have harmonic absorbers if you were making the increased mark levels, 3s/4s, of buildings thus far. So you may or may not have already seen the need for harmonic absorbers, and may or may not have already set these up. But yeah, this is super alloy, zinc oxide nanoparticles, aka much more zinc, rayon, aerogel, and hyperelastic material, aka big biofilm. Biofilm. Alright, so that's harmonic absorbers, and that's the nitrogen vacancy centers. Well, that just leaves quantum dots. Alright, well, what's quantum dots? Colloidal silica, silicon wafers, phosphine gas, boric acid, and etching solution. Well, that's like one of the easiest ones of the lot to make. It's, of course, look at all the things that are in particle accelerators. Look at all these 4 things in particle accelerators for this. Yeah, it's gonna be lots of power. Lots of power. But guess what? What's we have all these things? We got space science. We got space science. We're done. We have beaten Pyanodons mods. You can officially say that you have survived Pyanodons mods at this point. Congratulations, you have survived. You have made it. Chances are that if you set this up the first time, you are going to be very much lacking in the ability to actually feed the thing fully to even get the 0.05 per second. So from here on, it's just about, scaling up to get whatever desired science output you want. So, there was this guy who has decided that they were going to build 5 per second and set up a base around the concept of 5 per second of space science. Yeah. Good luck. If you decide to do anything greater than 1, I would say. Even 1 is a lot of stuff. And this is where I will also mention. By default, as of very recently, the extreme vast majority of all of this no longer is able to use productivity modules. Why? I don't know. A lot of these are strictly intermediates and should be able to use productivity modules, but they don't. It eludes me as to the exact reasoning behind this outside of FU, outside of just the concept of FU. So, yeah, I have made a mod. The mod is currently available on the Factorio mod portal. It is called Productive Pyanodons. Productive Pyanodons. And what this mod does, obviously, is it takes a whole bunch of the recipes in Pyanodons mods that currently exist, that do not currently have the ability to use productivity modules, and allows them to have productivity modules. So a lot of recipes that were not normally able to take productivity modules, or that have been recently changed to no longer take productivity modules, can now take productivity modules. So just as an example, all of the space science stuff here takes productivity modules. The note to self that I made here is that I need to add the superconductor super mechanisms recipe. I need to add this. This is clearly an intermediate, and it should absolutely take productivity modules. But other than that, I sort of didn't... hello? Like, excuse me? Infinity mod, please? You know what? Infinity mod, give me like all those. Well, we'll be level 3s. Now, note that I purposefully left this recipe off of the productivity module list, because this one, there is a genuine concern that you could end up with more ingredients out than the ingredients in on the laser turrets, so I wanted to avoid those circumstances where you get more than what you put in. Outside of that, like, for the most part here, we've got plenty of things. Note that there is a building level limitation on washers on productivity. I have not done an override for washers, because for the most part, that can cause problems. Similarly, these steps on the Relesia makes sense that they shouldn't have the productivity just because, it's 1-to-1, and then halves from there. It doesn't make sense on the biotic that you're like crushing a biotic thing. It makes a bit more sense on the extract at the end to get a bit more, but anyway. There are also currently, as of this recording, building level limitations of productivity on nanoassemblers and pulp mills, which I have overridden in the mod that I have released, because A, pulp mills before the introduction of the Mark 1 through 4 variants of the pulp mills were absolutely able to use productivity modules. And in fact, the file that defines the original pulp mill still exists in the code, and it still has the ability to use productivity modules. Nanoassemblers are the same. They used to have productivity in them, and now they do not. So I have overridden that. I think that it's an oversight that they can't use productivity modules, especially now since Pyanodon had the wonderful idea to also limit the recipes themselves on this, but yeah, that is that. Also, note again that I have a setting enabled that sets the number of module slots to be twice the current mark level. It's 2x the mark, or it doubles each mark level. Double with mark level. So these have 4. I think they normally would have 3 at base settings, and then the Mark IV would have 4. Well, in this case, the Mark IV would have 8 because it's doubling 4. And it's 4 because it's doubling 2 of the Mark II. So definitely bear that in mind. I have more module slots than usual by standard settings, but there is a setting, part of Pyanodons mods now, that you can choose to double by tier, or double each tier. And that will, of course, be wonderful and beautiful when you do that. It will help a lot, and yeah, it'll help save your precious basic materials by being able to do this. I need to actually get rid of some stuff from the... Oh, hi. Don't need that many, thanks. Don't need quite that many. So that's it. That's all, folks. It's been 51 minutes. I would like to say that it has been great going over and doing these tutorials thus far. We are not done yet on the tutorials. In particular, there are at least 2 more processing chains that are completely optional that we have not covered yet. One is raw coal and one is oil sands. Both of these are completely optional for progression in Pyanodons mods. So they will be covered next. I will go over raw coal, and then I will go over oil sands for our next videos. And eventually, rather soon actually, will be the release of Pi Alien Life, as well as tutorials that will come from Pi Alien Life's release. I don't think that I will make tutorials for Pi Alien Life immediately after its release, just because it will be undergoing a very, very large and very, very frequent number of updates once it is released. It will be constantly changing, a lot more often even than the regular mod set is changed now. So yeah, just bear that in mind. Though they will come, but probably not immediately. I don't know exactly what further tutorials you would like to see outside of what's currently missing here with raw coal and oil sands. So if you would like to let me know, please leave a comment to tell me what types of further Pyanodons specific tutorials you would like to see, or even things that are not quite as Pyanodons specific. Just let me know in the comments what you would like to see so that I know going forward, because I'm running out of ideas. After these next 2 weeks, where we will have raw coal and oil sand, if I decide to even have them as separate videos, I might make them one video, as I have here, with the Intel units, utility science, and quantum space science. After that, I'm out of ideas until Pi Alien Life is, somewhat stable in its functionality, to say the least. Just, yeah. So let me know in the comments going forward. And, yeah, thank you all for watching. This has been Otaku Showboat. If you have enjoyed this tutorial series thus far, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, do all the social stuff through the links in the description below this video. You can help support Pyanodon at patreon.com/Pyanodon, myself at patreon.com/OtakuShowboat, and I will, of course, see you all on the next one, where we're going to start going over the alternative, the optional processing chains. I hope to see you all then.